Boom. All right, we're in. Brian motherfucking Jackson.
Man? Good to meet you. Man? Good to meet you, Chris. Good to see the people in person, talking heads. Chris, right. Jason, it's good.
Jack, our friend
like
Jack,
the poster, man. That's an awesome movie.
I have some sort of cider, some shit. I don't know.
Nice.
I'm putting on airs and drinking wine.
Putting on airs.
Getting all sophisticated.
All right, man. So we chopped it up in Holy Clowns before, but Holy Clowns is on hiatus, if not dead. We'll see what happens. We're doing this thing now, hard out. We got 1 hour to go. One thing, I know I can just pull the ripcord on this. Chris and I were talking a bit yesterday about Elon Musk and his Neurolink, and I was telling him how much you fucking hate Elon Musk. So,
yeah,
I get it. I totally get it. We were talking about it, some of the weird shit he's done with the pedo guy tweets and all that shit. He's
he's
bizarre.
He's
a weirdo.
Like, he's just one of those people where I'm just like, I just see through the whole, like, the facade. Like, I see through all of the bullshit. Like, when you take any bit of scrutiny and apply it to Elon Musk, he just doesn't. It just, the whole shit falls apart. Mm-hmm. Like, when you know his backstory and everything, it's just like, this guy's a fucking fraud. Like, he's a fraud. And
because he comes from PayPal and that stuff.
Well, not only that, but like, he comes, like, first of all, he's a rich kid. You know, his family stole a damn diamond mine or some shit in South Africa. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And then yeah. So that's initially where he comes from. He comes from wealth. And then he's just been handed all of this shit. Like, again, like all the companies he runs, you know, whether it's Tesla, whether it's SpaceX or the Boring Company, none of these companies make money. None of them. They're all
get massive subsidies. Right. Yeah.
They all get subsidized by our tax dollars. And not only that, he didn't even invent Tesla. Like, 2 other guys did. He came in, bought it from them, and made them sign all this fucking paperwork that basically says they can't say shit about it at all. Like,
yeah, it's interesting because the story with Edison and Tesla, like, he might be more of an Edison figure than a Tesla when he named the company Tesla.
It's the most ironic thing about it when you think about it. He's like, no, he's really Edison. He came in and bought a company. And he's the Edison of Tesla.
The closest thing he has going to Tesla is how Tesla was in love with that pigeon, and he's hooked up with Grimes. It's like the closest shit.
That looks kind of fun. I don't know. But it could be argued, wherever his family got his money, like, as his own person, what he does with it, is most important. Like, rather than going off and doing something just like, living a pleasurable life or whatever, he's trying to advance society in certain ways. And he's definitely eccentric. I think, like, I think he's got some sort of Aspergery, autistic thing going on that also makes him awkward. And, like, when you try and read him, he probably is always putting up some kind of front because he's just got all, he's just a weirdo inside. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
you shouldn't hold against people being a weirdo, but
no. But, I do get a weird vibe from him too. And like I said, that all the weird controversies he's had with, like, the pedo guy thing, that, right? Where he called this guy, we don't have to.
It was that scuba diver with the
right.
Yeah. He called a scuba diver a pedophile.
Right.
That's all you need to say.
Without any evidence or anything, just
meanwhile,
that's a crazy thing to throw at someone.
Right, and he's the one with pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell.
No shit. Right. Yeah, there's that too. Yeah. Of course, it seems like they cross mingled with all the elite, rich, and powerful. So, I don't know if you can,
it's hard
guilt by association on that.
Right, it's hard when they were literally made sure that they were around these, this certain class of people. Exactly. They moved within those circles, so they have pictures of everybody.
Yes.
To give them the benefit of the doubt on some shit. But I'll say this.
And, go ahead.
I'll say this, like, in terms of, like, him being like a rich kid and shit. Look, Karl Marx is a rich guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's from well means, but, like, that doesn't mean he's fundamentally, you know, like he's a class traitor. I'm always for like just because you're from a certain class does not necessarily mean that you can't contribute. You know, or I'm not going to completely write you off. It's more or less about what your deeds are. You know what I mean? And I'm just looking at, I just look at Elon Musk and I just look at his deeds and I'm just like, this guy is, like I said, like they call somebody, they like to call him, you know, Tony Stark. But to me, he's fucking Lex Luthor. He's been Lex Luthor the whole time. He's not Tony Stark.
The AI shit is so fascinating.
So you actually think he has like nefarious intent? Like like his intentions are?
I just think it's not that he has like a some sort of like global domination sort of thing going on, but I just feel like he's a self-serving, you know, billionaire eccentric guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
okay,
he likes the idea of Elon Musk. You know what I mean? Like he likes to play that up. You know, he likes to be like, oh, I'm this guy who's doing all this shit. But really, when you really look at him from any sort of, he's just, like I said, there's nothing to it. It's like when you see behind the curtain, you're like, okay, like this guy is just the beneficiary. I was talking about this with Jason. I'm like, if you had money or access to the money that Elon did and the resources that Elon did, you would try and do some of the same things he would do, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's what people respond to. People respond to like, oh yeah. But it's
somebody's doing it at least because he's the closest to Tony Stark out of all the real billionaires because most of them are fucking Koch brothers and shit.
Yeah, they are actually trying to make money rather than do things that might like change humanity and stuff. So to that point, like the fact that his companies aren't necessarily, you know, Tesla, I know the stock is doing insanely well, but as far as like all the other businesses, like the Boring Company and SpaceX and stuff, probably not. They're probably in the red. But it's kind of refreshing that it's not about the money and that it is more about, but I do get the feeling that he is just like a kid playing with toys mostly. Like this is just, he's getting off on sending rockets into space and flamethrowers.
I can't be too mad.
Sending one of his fucking cars into space. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, that's fun. I guess he's just having fun. It seems like mostly to me. I think that's really what the sense I get is that he does have all this money that he got from his family and PayPal and all that, but now he's just kind of. But you're right; it's probably a lot of it is very ego driven.
It's almost any person. Like what person is so highly developed that they wouldn't be in that position? The thing about all of it, though, to me, is that Neurolink is so much more interesting. It has so much more possibility and capability of really fucking throwing shit out of whack.
That's really,
you know, who gives a shit about an electric car or rockets that can land themselves? This shit's crazy.
I'm not putting,
game changer.
I'm not putting any Neuralink from any Elon Musk. It'll have to come from some other company. His rivals or some shit.
Is there a company though? Is there any company that you would?
No, not current. Well, he did say there are some things, but
I'm pretty sure there are. They're not. You're just not like.
No. I'm just saying, is there any company who would make one that you would trust enough to put in yourself and shit? You know?
I don't know. I don't know, but I know I wouldn't trust Elon's company.
Well, my thinking on that is that by the time this stuff gets to the point where I would even be remotely comfortable with it, I'll be maybe fucking like 80 years old or something. And by then it's like, why not? I mean, people jump out of a plane on their 80th birthday because they're like, so what if I die? You know, I've lived my life. Maybe I'll do it then just to, hey, maybe I'll get to.
I always planned on picking up crack at like 80. Like
exactly. I
crack, whatever. So why not Neuralink?
Just do all the drugs at 80, like all the hard drugs.
Basically. So when I quit smoking, it was with the caveat that when I turned 80, I could start again. So.
But we definitely don't want to dedicate this whole hour, the limited time we have to Elon. I definitely want to talk about Wisconsin, what's going down
Kenosha,
there.
for sure.
What is going on over in West fucking Wisconsin? Jason, tell me. Give me a fucking...
Hey, I don't claim this place. I only came here because I followed his ass. Blame him.
Real quick, though, how do you guys know each other? Or is it from Facebook, or did you guys know each other from before?
Writing circles. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe I'd heard that, but I forgot. So yeah, because at first I thought you were in Wisconsin as well, but I guess you're like, where are you?
No, I'm in the Midwest though. I'm in Cincinnati area.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
so I'm in the Midwest.
He's like the one guy. He's the one guy in all the writing groups that I could trust to adequately judge and talk shit about all the other people in the writing groups.
Yeah,
not all of you, but
having lived in LA and then coming back and just being based in the Midwest and then frequenting, like, since coming back from LA to Cincinnati area and being this guy who hops on planes and goes to LA over and over again, like, my perspective is just so much more of like, I'm not in the LA bubble. And before I even moved there, I was already a fully formed human. So by the time I got there, It was like all the bullshit. Like so I have a different perspective. I'm not like, so yeah, I say I'm a grounded person. Like it's like the Bukowski thing. When Bukowski was like, yo, by the time I got famous, it was too fucking late. Like I had already been through so much shit.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm not enjoy it.
Right. But like he couldn't, like they could never, the industry or the fame or the notoriety could never change who he was. So like me at that point, I'm like, any sort of like cultural cachet, I don't have any, but if I was to ever get any at this point, I'm just too far grounded and I've been through too much in terms of my life experience to like, for it to be like, I'm not jaded. I'm just so rooted. You know what I'm saying? I'm just rooted. Okay, I am a little jaded, but I'm just so rooted.
Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Truly.
So I look at these guys from LA, like these screenwriter guys, and I just see through the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And these actors and just my experiences with certain actors and shit like that. Like I've been around these people. I've looked at them face to face. Like I've seen like, yeah, you're full of shit. You know what I mean? So like
it's just like politicians. It's like anything. Once you get close enough, you see what they really are. You're just like, oh my God, this is what it was. This is all it ever was. Like what? And we've likened it to trying to break into Hollywood and then stopping and reassessing and saying, wait, you think of those 80s movies where like the nerd tries to break into the cool kid scene but realizes he's like cooler than anyone in the fucking cool scene. I've always felt like that with Hollywood, like not coolness necessarily, but just I'm trying desperately to get into this clique, and then I realize, fuck this clique. What? I want nothing to do with this shit.
Yeah, when you get in there and you really start to like, you're like, wait a minute, like why am I like this? Are these people fucking for real? Like, you know, that's the approach I had. Like I've worked every kind of like menial job you could ever think of. Like I've
totem shit.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've done all the, you know, the warehouses and all that shit. So like long before washing
dishes.
Yeah, like so like I like none of like I will never be like, I'm not blinded by the stars. You know what I'm saying? That's probably why I'm able to work with an actor or go in it and it's just like nothing to me. It's because like I just see through the bullshit. Like one of the best experiences in terms of like just how fucking like how fucked up of a, or how much of a different like universe like LA is from like just regular like just average people was the time that maybe I've told you this, Jason, before, was the time that I went up to this. Dan Mintz was the former I think he was like the president of DMG Entertainment, the Beijing DMG Entertainment wing or whatever, and he had this giant mansion that looked like Tony Stark's mansion in fucking Bel Air, and he had me come up there. And meanwhile, I'm living in this little ass bucket ass apartment in the valley.
Trying to make ends meet.
Right. I go up to this this giant mansion with a fucking infinity pool that falls off and looks over the hills and shit. And I get in there and it's like, this is like just opulence, ridiculous opulence. And here's this fucking guy in here. And he's got all these USC, these young, like impressionable, like stars in their eyes, USC grads and shit in here. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, okay, guys, like, we're just going to try this idea. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? He's like, well, you know how TV has a writer's room, right? Well, why don't we do that for features? So like, I want you guys to help me break this story. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, like I'm not like, immediately I'm like, okay, he's not paying anybody in this room. I'm the only writer who's ever been paid in this room. Like, you know what I'm saying? As like, I'm sitting there thinking that and I'm like, Okay, well,
hey, interns,
creating-
write the script for me.
right. So I'm just sitting here and I'm just watching this. He's basically paying these people in pizza. And then at a point, I just told him, I was like, yo, man, I gotta go. He's like, what's going on? It's like, I just gotta go. I got other things to do. You know, I got my kids, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, family first, dude. Whatever. Then as soon as I
already had lunch.
I drove out. I called my manager and I was like, yo, why the fuck? And he was like, oh, what? You went to that? I'm like, dude, yeah, I went to that because you fucking, you know, like I was like, hey, I got an email from fucking one of the DMG assistants that was like, hey, Ryan, yeah, Dan wants to meet with you up at his, blah, 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 here's that.
Yeah, you gotta go. You don't know what the fuck it is. Could be legit.
Like, he was like, yeah, you shouldn't have went to that. I'm like, no shit. You know what I'm saying? But like, those type of experiences, like, just I've had those weird experiences, and like that kind of like sums up like just sort of like how this business is. You know what I mean? Like how, like, if you're somebody who just is hungry and is like willing to just wants their shot, Hollywood will take advantage of you, dude. Like it would
totally. Yeah, we've seen.
They love people like that. You know.
Speaking of which, do me a favor and give me a hard lean left or right. So you could, yes. See that back there? Thank you.
Yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning, but I don't know if anyone heard me. Yeah,
yes.
That's awesome
the Hollywood
movie.
Shuffle poster. Yes. So
these ain't secrets. These things you discovered. They were.
Right, yeah, that's right. Tons of that in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. Just stories like that, like plus just the life experience I had before. Just kind of informs and keeps me grounded. Like I will, you know, so like when Jason says, you know, like, yeah, Ryan's one of those guys who I can like talk about these other writers. It's like, yeah, because I'm a legitimate, like I've lived a full life. I have you know what I'm saying? Right. Like I have a daughter who's now in college, you know what I'm saying? Like I have a 6-year-old son. Like I've been through all the shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? I've had those moments where I've looked like I've been like all the way broke and like not like, you know what I mean? Like, and still survived.
So you're digging in couch cushions and shit.
Right. So it's
paying
like
for gas with change, you know. Yes.
And that was part of the impetus of me starting an offshoot writers group from the one we were in. You know what I mean? It was because of all the bullshit. It was just like as a creative, as pretentious as that sounds, like I feel like it's important that there's a space that exists for other creatives to be able to feel free to just be their fucking self and just say the shit that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like there has to be a safe space, you know, buzzword. There has to be a safe space where like people are allowed. It's
ironic. A safe space, though.
Yeah, ironic.
A safe space to say the most gnarly shit without repercussions.
Right. To be able
safe space from safe spaces.
Right. Exactly. A safe space from safe spaces. Essentially, where it's like that shit's important. Like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like we're human beings. Like we're not like supposed to be like constantly moving throughout life thinking like, yo, what about the HR department? Like,
eggshells.
You know, like, on eggshells, exactly.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, well, this is not in the, you know, like we don't like that.
We had a military stepdad. We already lived that. Thank you.
Right. No one wants to like move throughout their life in that fashion, because what it does, it creates people who are just fucking fake. And I feel like that's anti-art, dude. Like, that's
absolutely
anti-art. Like, you can't create anything of worth if you're just fucking fake all the time. Like, you know.
Well, here's the thing. My issue with the writers, like we were talking first about talking shit about writers, but then you told some of the Hollywood side of it. My issues aren't even that. That's its own fucking nasty beast. I take exception with the writers who police language. And man, I was in one of those WGA groups about the time where they were going to drop the, you know, kick the agencies to the curb and shit.
Yeah.
And I had to bounce because it's the worst of progressivism. As far as policing language and shit, people would get invalid arguments and they would invariably devolve into arguing about how something was said instead of what was said, you know, and just all this. Nothing gets done. You can't cut through that noise at all. And then when writers of all people are doing it to each other, we should be the freaks who fly our freak flags and are open to any idea. I mean, how do you write compelling villains and shit if you can't even have these fucking awful thoughts? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that writers are kind of like, in a way, they're kind of like, they're not viewed this way, but in my opinion, they're basically part of the counterculture. Like, or if not, they're
good writers.
Right, they're adjacent to the counterculture. Like, they're right by it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Norman Mailer, for example, is like
absolutely,
super adjacent to it, but not a hippie. You know,
exactly. And
William
I'm like,
Burroughs.
all the writers that I know are super problematic figures. You know what I'm saying? All the writers that I know whose work I have some sort of affinity for, like are like, especially by 2020 standards. You know what I'm saying? Like they have, but that's what comes with living a full life and also a creative life, because, you know, let's be honest, like it takes a certain personality type to even want to do this, to want to sit in a room and fucking make up shit and like go to places like that takes a specific personality. Yeah, right. Like we're the freaks, you know what I'm saying?
There's a couple different many sub archetypes within that though. There's the ones who are driven by ego, and those are the worst. Those are the ones who you can't even have
talent, but they have the ego.
Right. And the delusional or whatever, which half of the people in those groups we were in, that's them.
Right. There's that, and then there's also
there's
the fucking ladder climber careerist people.
Yes, that's another.
Those people are fucking legion. Like, in fact, those people are the ones who are the majority. I would go on a limb and say, like, when I'm just interacting and moving around, is like those people, like the people who look at writing as a straight up career. Like they approach it like a corporate. You know, a corporate job. They walk into an office and they get in there and then they climb up.
Some of them are successful as shit. Some of the most successful writers I know.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, and then when you watch all the shit that gets made, you know what I'm saying? Like they're right. It is content. It's not art. It's content. That's exactly what the fuck it is. You know what I'm saying? Like all these Netflix shows and all these like
writers' rooms. Ugh.
It's watered down. It's watered down. There's no soul. There's no edge. It's like just. And it's like that's why I find myself watching all old shit all the time. That's why when we're in the quarantine,
talk about that all the time.
Right. That's why in the quarantine,
70s, man.
When we were talking about the movies and shit, and I was watching all these obscure movies, that was one of the reasons. It's like why would I look to the new shit when all the new shit is just like it's
product. That shit wasn't product. That shit was
It's stepped on. It's been stepped on. It's been cut with baby powder over and over again, and you're just you know what I'm saying? It's stepped on. Its
goal was often to offend, you know, to provoke, you know,
and by committee. What great shit has come by committee? Like, yes, filmmaking itself is a collaborative medium because you don't necessarily need to be the best boy and the fucking writer. But when it comes to writing, a committee isn't a fucking good thing. A collaboration isn't necessarily a good thing at all. I mean, the best shows ever, you talk about shit like, obviously, Sopranos, you got David Chase, you got your Milches. These are like dudes with singular visions. And if they have a writer's room at all, it's just to do the typing and shit.
Yeah. In the making of the Deadwood show, it showed a video of Milch laying on the floor on his back as interns were typing and stuff as he was just rattling.
That's the way to do it.
Yes, I love that. But he was asking for feedback. He was like, do you think that's within this character's...
Yeah, and I think that's healthy. Don't get me wrong. You know, but I'm saying... it's not just these...
But it was a sounding board, you know.
But it's a show with a true vision. It's not just whatever show sells to NBC, that fucking upfronts or whatever the fuck, and it's...
Yeah, whatever. And I feel like while everyone is looking at the current space in terms of like entertainment, and everyone's looking at like the new models, the streaming models and all the shit, everyone's looking like at the big places, the Netflix and obviously the old studios, and you know, like, and I feel like that's why everyone's looking that way. Like you have to be looking the opposite direction.
Dude, what do you think we're doing with Cactus Jack and shit?
Right. Because whatever the next wave is, it's not going to come from that. It's not. Right. It's going to be
a clone of
what's
popular currently. Yeah.
Where everyone is going and where all the money is being flooded in right now. Like that's not the future. Like that's not. Like it's going to be like, and like we've seen this time and time again. Like it always comes from, you know, look at the moment that we're living in. Like look at all the shit. So just imagine like the actual interesting art that's going to come out from this time. It's going to be first of all, it's just a dearth of so much shit. But best believe there is some interesting shit that is like bubbling up and probably being created right now as we have this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Like, and my thing is to like to be in those spaces and to be doing shit over there while everyone else is trying to do this shit over here, this homogenized corporate, you know.
I can reach through the screen and fucking kiss you, dude.
Yeah, it's.
What are you working on right now, by the way? Do you want to say?
I'm actually writing. I'm trying to write something that I can make myself. Like that's why you see this poster back here. This Hollywood.
I've been preaching that to every writer I know for a year, 2 years.
The shit like this inspires me. Like these are the type of directors and shit I look up to. These like motherfuckers who just independently did it. Like so that's what I want to do. I just want to make some shit like
Moxie.
That's just me, and that's just like okay, it came from me. It's a thing. I put it out there. I didn't ask permission. I just did it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Here's the crazy thing. Here's where I think we're at. If you look at all the great independent film movements throughout history, when you look at the 70s and the Cassavetes and shit coming up, and then the 90s with the Kevin Smiths and the Clerks, it was always just about budget and almost a rejection of studio filmmaking and big Jurassic Park shit, and always taking it back to character, back to people, back to talking heads, where you could tell a good story just about people, working class shit, the bicycle thief type shit. It's always a return to that. But now we're in an age where distribution is part of the independent movement. It was always still get a Harvey Weinstein to like your shit and take it out or whatever, you know, but now it's technology's democratized the whole distro side to this point where it's can you not only generate a story that could even be bigger with CGI and shit. Now you could tell a District 9 or some shit instead of just a Clerks or a Shadows or something. Yeah. But you can distribute it yourself. But it's just the thing is, how do you cut through? How do you get the marketing of it? And Chris and I, we're all, and I know you're already invoked Karl Marx 2 minutes into this shit. We're all about a creative middle class.
Right.
Can you make 50 grand a year telling stories, or does it have to be nothing or fucking $1 million?
That's the problem. That's the problem with the whole like Uber super capitalist shit that we live in. It's like it crushed that. Like there used to be that. There used to be that middle class.
Right.
But like it's just the way shit is the way shit is accelerated. It's like now it's like you're either making this big shit or you're fucking you're broke. You're either broke or you got it all. You know what I'm saying? There's no middle ground. And it's like trying. And like you said, with the democratization of tools, and just like you said, distribution and things like that, like there's no reason why you can't make shit and put it out because it's literally at your fingertips now.
Exactly. It's just how do you go viral? How do you market it? How do you catch an audience? But my point is, you don't need to get that big of an audience to break even on a film that you made for 50 grand.
Exactly.
And think about this. Look at the podcast space, right? Look at the podcast space. Like it took forever for them to figure out, okay, like how are we going to monetize this? Now, like they're monetizing podcasts left and right, whether it's Patreon, whether it's deals with like these DSPs.
They are, brother, not us.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Right. You know, but like there's a way. You know what I'm saying? There's a way for you to turn into monetize this shit.
And there's ways no one's even done yet.
Right. And the thing is to find those ways to just take that risk. I mean, honestly, if you're gonna make any of this shit, it's a risk anyways. So if you're gonna risk it, fuck it. Might as well try. Let's risk and try to make. Because again, there's no reward without the risk. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think the next big thing is going to be? Because Chris and I feel like we've always been a day late and a dollar short as far as Hollywood. The kind of shit we write would have killed probably coming up 2 decades ago because we're writing the kind of shit that we grew up inspired by, but now it's just a different landscape, so they're not assailable or whatever.
Right.
And then the podcast thing, Chris and I have been talking for years about doing it. I mean, talk shit about me being a Rogan fan. I started at like episode 9 of his shit or something, I think.
I'm a Rogan fan. Like I'm just like, what Rogan to me is like,
Rogan's what he says he is. He's like, I'm a dumbass fucking cage fighter monkey who.
But I have to
advertise.
I can only take Rogan so much though. Like so, like I listen to. It's like I listen to him. Like it just depends. Now it's like who's he got on? All right,
that's where I'm at now. It's who's the guest for sure.
Like, and I still listen to maybe an hour, which is perfect for our hard out thing because like that's about where I expire.
Also, it's like I've already heard like Rogan talk about taking DMT so many times.
He's told the same story.
UFOs, gorillas.
Dude, I could tell them all. Like he was a security guy in Alpine Valley.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So it's like you already know the whole Rogan.
I love him.
Here was the point, though. Here was the point. Rogan got in early on the podcast.
Super early.
Wagon, and we have been listening since then. Chris and I have both been listening to the podcast since way back. And now, though, for years we talked about doing one, and now we finally do one, but it's too late. It's so oversaturated and shit.
But it is definitely oversaturated. But I'm gonna tell you, I don't think
Your
it's
mailman's doing it.
I don't think it's too late though. I just think that like it's super saturated now. But like in terms of like the models that they have for like monetization, it's like it's all new. It's just now it's mainstream now. That's the thing. So before, if you got in earlier, you got in before it's mainstream. Now it's mainstream. But it's still early.
Right.
In terms of just like it being a thing, like it's still very fucking early. So anybody that I'm like, yo, if you want to do a podcast, do it, go for it. But like only podcast I can think of like that like predated like Rogan like that was what Corolla.
Kevin Smith, Corolla, and that
Tom Green, man.
Tom Green is the goat.
Tom Green had his,
Right, I forgot about Tom Green.
Tom Green's a legend.
Yes.
Right, Tom Green was first on everything. So
I'm doing a shot for Tom Green right now. Fucking love Tom Green.
Tom Green he definitely fucking was early on a whole lot of shit. Like so. I'm just man. Like I'm like.
But I'm just asking, what do you think the next frontier could be? Like podcasts. Who could have predicted podcasts?
Right.
I mean, shit. Back in the 80s, I'm sure there was people. You think about Jim Morrison in the 60s was saying someday he basically called out how music is made nowadays. It's going to be one guy with a computer. You don't need a fucking band. You don't need anything. You know, Billie Eilish or even Trent Reznor or whatever he called out years ago. And the podcast, I'm sure. Look at talk radio, Howard Stern, all these people have been thinking someday, I don't need this fucking radio station, especially as soon as the internet. Remember Pump Up the Volume? That's a podcast. Super Harry Hard-On. Christian Slater had a fucking podcast.
Radio.
So we've been forecasting this forever. The technology caught up, democratized it again. But I'm just wondering what could be the next thing. I don't know. Is there something else?
I'm not
Some Neurolink shit.
If I knew, I would definitely be going towards it. But I feel like as far as prediction, like all the sci-fi like shit that we had, like everyone predicted almost everything except the internet. Like the internet, like no one really predicted.
Tesla, kind of. I mean, predicted cellular and.
But not like the internet as we know it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like no one really got that. They got all this other shit, but no one got this. So the internet is like this game-changing thing. So like. And all of the like the advances in technology and all this shit it's through the internet. So like truthfully, like I don't know what's next, but I do know that whatever it is, it's not going to come from these fucking like approved or these like like these studios or these
channels.
I know what's next. Neuralink. To bring it back to Elon. That's what's next.
Dude, when Neuralink hits, it's going to be nothing but Pornhub. Like, no one's going to do anything else with it, dude.
I predict.
So that's probably what it will come down to.
I think Neuralink will go the same route.
Strange days.
That Google Glass went. I think.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same, like, or the Segway,
It'll be like Elon's idea for the tunnels under a fucking and that just turned into some stupid shit. Like he was like, we're going to build an underground now. Oh, it's just going to be one person now.
Right.
Like,
and VR is kind of like that. Like it's VR, it's trying to become, like entrenched, and
VR technology needs to get up to resolution and bandwidth point, and I think it could be amazing. Now, it also has limitations in how your body is stuck there. They need to find a way to holodeck it. But the Neuralink combined with it, what if you're on a Neuralink closed circuit, right? What if you could close circuit a Neuralink so it's not talking to all these other people? It's only for the VR experience. And it's telling your brain, giving your brain smells and shit. It's strange days, exactly. That's what I was saying a minute ago.
I think that's the ultimate goal.
So Neuralink could have great possibilities in that way, where maybe you shield it so it's not hackable wirelessly.
Yeah, it's not safe. It's not connected to other stuff. It's just all.
It's for the VR experience. Period. Yeah, exactly. That shit could take off.
Like an isolated computer or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, it could even tickle the fear center of your brain before the jump scare and shit. It could be crazy.
Yeah, it could. Really want to get. It really does. Just like it completely opens up to all possibilities. It really
remember like the smell-o-vision. There's a couple of movies, The
like
Tingler,
that shit.
Those old movies.
The Tingler, yes.
Yeah, and there was some smellorama shit or something.
You can feel the rats running under.
So it's like people have been interested in this shit in ages. It's again just dreaming of a day when technology could do it. And I mean, people have had crazy sci-fi thoughts since fucking the turn of the century, basically late 1800s. Sci-fi was a thing. So I don't think we've ever had a problem imagining even like the internet or something so much, but it's just unbelievable how quickly it's all gone down. I mean, humanity was pretty much the same thing You had like the steam engine came along. All right, but if you look at industrialization, period, it's so new, but the rapidity of it is insane. How quickly the shit
like the industrial revolution was, a couple hundred years ago, give or take.
Yeah, and now we have
the internet age is within our lifetime.
Yeah,
it's just
now we're looking at Neurolink.
So who knows in 500 years? I mean, it's going to happen eventually. We're going to get to the 500 years from now. It's not like time's ever going to stop occurring or whatever, as long as we don't nuke ourselves or global warm ourselves to death or whatever,
or get hit by a fucking asteroid.
Right. The election day asteroid,
AI, robots, Skynet.
AI, right. Well, that's one of Elon's points about Neuralink, is that he says if you can't beat them, join them. Like, if AI eventually is going to come around, and it could be a huge danger. He calls it summoning the demon. And if that's true, then it's better to keep up pace with it, to basically merge with AI rather than be a victim of it.
I think Elon stole that summoning the demon thing. I think
sure. He probably
stole that from like Ray Kurzweil or somebody. He stole it.
Or Asimov or some shit. Kurzweil. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he's probably stole
But whatever. I mean, I heard him say.
I don't want to give it. I know. I just like fucking with Elon. I don't like to give him
he takes shots for sure.
I'm always taking shots at him.
We'll have him on someday.
Elon, do not enter the paint. Elon, pull up. Fucking.
He smoked a J on Joe Rogan, so I'll give him that at least.
Yeah, he did it.
And of course, and immediately his military contracts were scrutinized because he smoked weed on Joe Rogan. Like, that's a whole other conversation. But
yeah, the military needs to smoke some fucking herb, at least get some shrooms up in that bitch.
Being conscious of the running clock, is there anything else you guys want to get into?
Well, we didn't even touch on Kenosha. We started talking about Kenosha, let's get into that shit, of course, for a minute. Not that we haven't covered this shit for 2 hours last time you and I talked, but who knows? That whole thing might be buried like some time capsule at this point.
Well, and there's new...
Yeah, there's the specific case of this fucking 17-year-old.
Yeah.
That video of him fucking helping his friends beat up a girl. Yeah, this is the kid that they're trying to fucking, basically some people on the right are like, oh, he's a hero. They're trying to like valorize this little fucking kid who's clearly a fucking little asshole.
Looking for trouble.
Obviously.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm so scared that we're at a point where I'm telling you, any event happens and you can pretty much bet on who's going to react to it, how, and the narrative's going to be completely fucking divergent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, polar opposites and shit, diametrically opposed, where he's a hero or he's a fucking villain. I mean, honestly, the true answer is he's a fucking little loser who isn't in control of himself and has been fed propaganda and is scared out of his mind. And, they're all just, everybody's a fuck up and a pussy is the real answer to all this shit. But it's just funny how they all project and extrapolate and behave based off of that truism and shit, and how it's demarcated by this left-right party bullshit.
It's so crazy because it's like, they'll sit there and they'll have all these issues and all these
hero.
Right. They have all these issues and all these problems. They want to debate with you about debate with you about like how people, how people protest or looting, etc. But then when somebody on their side does some like indefensible shit, it's all right. It's okay that he just went out there and crossed state lines with a fucking assault weapon and shot these fucking protesters. Oh, that's fine that he's
more egregious. Yeah.
Right. Oh, he's a kid. He punched that girl, but he's a kid. Now it's excuses. Now it's like that's what I'm talking about with people with those like flexible principles. Like I can't respect that. If you believe something, be believe. Like what I'm saying, stand on that shit. You don't get to move the bar.
And at least use some maybes and express some doubt and shit and say, I don't know, this is kind of how I see it right now. Everybody's like, this is how it is.
Exactly.
Like,
just take, stakes in the ground.
That's my problem with liberals in general is like, and when I get into my little back and forth online with this shit, it's that because they will criticize, the right for all this shit. But the moment that someone on the fucking, on the left, it's not even the left, but what we call the left, moment that they like one of our guys does it, one of our team, then it's okay. Then they excuse it. They look the other way. And I'm like, no, it's wrong is wrong. Like we should not, there shouldn't be like there shouldn't be no Oh,
Like, is Hunter Biden shit not gross as hell?
Exactly, Hunter Biden.
It's team sports again.
Right, it's team sports shit. Right, it's like I'm on this team. It's okay that we do it. It's like,
I mean, you know, we run in these same online
bias.
circles, and you've seen me be called this concern troll thing 1,000 times. The only reason you probably haven't been is because we're of different pigmental fucking persuasions and shit. So I can get accused of shit that even if you say the exact same thing, you wouldn't. But
that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, neither here nor there. It's just this concern troll thing where what happened to policing your own? I was talking about this with Zart in our first episode. It's like, if people policed their own more, we wouldn't have half the problems we got in the world. If cops police their own, holy shit. If Muslims police their own a little better, if conservative white supremacist type leaning Christians did, if
seems like
people
human
on the left
nature
did. Yeah.
It seems like human nature is more to cover up for your own than to
and make excuses for and valorize, like you said.
Very fundamental human nature thing.
People will make excuses for whatever they want to do. You know, that's what it is. It's like
confirmation bias ruling everything.
That's all it is in the end. Yeah,
and that's the ego. We talked about earlier. If you need confirmation bias, that's pure an ego play. You know.
Yeah, and as me personally, as a person, like I'm of that, like, you know, I'm of the mind or the thinking that, like, yo, like, I'm always trying to, like, be self-reflective, and I'm one of those people who's like striving for, like, I don't believe that you ever get to a point of self-actualization, but, like, that's the goal. I think it's a goal that you just continuously work till you're not here.
It's such a horizon. Sure.
Right. It's just it's something that you're supposed to continuously work for forever. You know what I'm saying? Until you're no longer on this planet, on this earth.
Enlightenment, essentially.
Right. And it's like, for me, it's like, it's always about, like, being the best version of me. You know what I mean? So I'm
so failing at that myself.
I am
being the best version of myself.
Right. And we're human. That's you know what I'm saying? You have to give yourself, you know, like, you have to give yourself the ability to forgive, you know, like, be forgiving, at least, to be like, all right, well, I'm not gonna achieve that, but that's always the goal. You know what I mean? The goal is to, like, there's gonna be days where I'm closer than when I'm not.
To me, this is ego too, but it's the healthy form of taking your ego. Now, think about even just fundamental shit, like,
too, when it comes to just impulse versus, like.
Well, just think of how Mr. Rogers tried to get us to deal with our base primal reactionary impulses or whatever. It's kind of just that. It is ego. It's all ego. It's the ego is screaming something, and it's, do you cater towards it, or do you try and corral it?
I don't know if we could. I don't know if you could ever achieve, like, as a human being, you could ever achieve true ego death. But, like,
I don't think you should. I think it's vital. It drives us to do certain things and become better versions of ourselves. Like I said, you know. But it's just a matter of how you take that process.
I don't think we're capable of it anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I do think it is. I do think it is a noble pursuit, though. Regardless, you know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those things where I look at that's kind of how, like, as I've gotten older and progressed,
that's why I like mushrooms.
Right. Things like, you know, psychedelics and shit. Yeah, like, you're things that are going to open your consciousness. You know what I'm saying? And get you to get. There's just so much shit.
Here's the real drawback on this is when you do that, reality becomes even more of a nightmare for you. The more enlightened you become, as no one else does, the more you're this enlightened person living in this nightmare escape of fucking, that's the scary part. So it's like, we got to evangelize to others to follow us on this journey, but it's so hard because all it is everyone's defensive immediately, and again, just digging their fucking heels in on every stupid idea they've ever had. It's so crazy.
It's true, man. And what they were just brought up to believe.
And, well, again, this is back to the Kenosha shit. We are on some kind of timer. I haven't looked at it. It's just going to buzz us.
You want to give me an idea? We were talking about having a clock in the background, but I don't know if it's cooler not to know or to know. But anyway.
I kind of like it. It's like musical chairs. You're just like, oh, shit, but I know it's coming. I know it's going to come. The only one who probably really cares is us. But, all right, back to this Kenosha shit, though. It's like, I mean, I don't know what the whole argument about rioters and looters has been had, and no one's changing their fucking mind on it, unfortunately. How do we deal with this problem of everyone seeing it these two different divergent ways and never going to agree on it? Is there some other way to approach it to come at these problems that isn't about our theories and shit? Is there any? I don't know.
Like I feel like, and again, this ties. I hate to bring this shit back up again, but I feel like it's all related. Like
I thought you were gonna invoke Elon.
Not Elon. Just the whole idea. Just the whole idea of like the system of we live under, this uber capitalist system, right?
Yes.
Like it's about like we as people are so alienated and atomized from, you know what I'm saying, by this shit. Like it's so individualistic, right? We see things so like all of us as Americans see things through this narrative and through this prism of like the individual, like, but all of our fates are so intertwined.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that like, that is the thing that we lost from previous generations. You know what I'm saying? Like that lack of like class analysis and like class consciousness is something that is starting to be reawoken, but like they're fighting hard, because of propaganda and just years of we've been spoon-fed this shit since we were fucking babies. As soon as we come into this world, we're like being marketed.
Cradle to grave marketing and shit, yes.
So like people are just so set in this mode of being like dog eat dog, I'm gonna get mine, you better get yours, that like when situations occur, it's always like this tribal shit. It's always, I'm this team, I'm that team, I need to be with this person, so it's like it's gonna take time. We didn't get here overnight. So to think that like there's going to be some mass awakening that's going to occur and everybody's going to click, it's not. And even then, if there is some sort of like significant class consciousness that arises within the time that we're living in, there's still going to be people that aren't on board. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing: how do we find a way to keep the individual intact as much as possible in a system that benefits everybody? Because there's something to be said for individualism and going your own way and not.
I feel like people think that like somehow like you as the specific individual is somehow erased by us acknowledging that we're in this together. And I just disagree with that.
So
like, I feel like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, you're still an individual, but understanding your relationship as an individual.
And the impact you have.
Right, the impact to everyone else around you.
Masks.
The impact on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we got to understand. No one's saying, hey, you got to be an automaton and you got to be, this isn't an invasion of the body snatchers. You know what I'm saying? Where everybody is just, a pod person. No, this is like, understanding that we are all in this together. You know what I'm saying? Understanding that we all have an effect on each other's lives. And we should be like, and there's going to be things we disagree with. Like there's going to be issues but as a block, like when I talk about like the proletariat, when I talk about like the working class, the poor, there's going to be issues that we don't see eye to eye with. But the important fundamental ones are where we need to become allies. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And people,
like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what we got to get. That's what we got to work. It's like, look, we're not going to see eye to eye on certain shit, but we do see eye to eye on this, okay? Like we need to be able to have some sort of social safety net, and we should be able to reap the benefits of this system that's supposed to be for us. You know what I'm saying? Like the government is supposed to. They're quote unquote public servants. They should be serving us, right? Well,
like that doesn't equate to Stalinist Soviet Union, that's far from it. Will make the leap, like that's going to lead to that somehow,
Well, think about media though, and how media
smart about it. We can be smart about how we design this system.
Somebody said this real quick. They said communism is the government controlling, what the people, what is for the better good of the people, or something of that nature. And they said socialism is the people controlling
like the means of production.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you hear the issue with the means of production.
Yeah, taking over the means of production. You know what I'm saying? But like, so that's why I feel like we don't like. Are we ever going to be a full socialist nation? I don't think so. But I do think that we could have a blended. We can have a blended.
That's all anyone sensible is asking for usually.
You know what I'm saying?
Humanist capitalism.
We could have a blended system. You know what I'm saying? We could have socialism in certain sectors, in certain areas. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, there's no reason for the richest nation to have situations where people are without homes, people are going hungry.
Yeah.
That's like it's inexcusable.
Whether they're lazy or not. Like
Right.
why is ambition this prerequisite to not being ground by a machine?
Right. But because that's that American idea, that's that American ethos of your worth, right? Your worth is determined by what you contribute to the system.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I reject that completely. I'm like, no. Your worth is not based on what you contribute to the economy or to our system. Your worth is based on you as a human. You have worth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And not only that,
without a choice.
Not only that, it's when you create a system like this, there's only a narrow spectrum of how value can even be applied. But a lot of people have value that can't be applied within that system. But if we did away with that system, they could thrive. They could be, again, you're talking about storytellers, caregivers, whatever, that, I don't know. There's a whole spectrum of what we do and how we bring value to the human experience that capitalism only acknowledges a thin portion of that,
I think this is rooted in survival. Like, we're still hardwired to feel like everyone's got to pull their weight in some way to make sure that the tribe survives, what have you. But as we advance, we can retool ourselves. That technology changes things. We are able to mass produce food and things, and we have the wherewithal to do that if we just put our minds to it and dismantle all of the draconian primal instincts that are built in based on how we had evolved to this point.
I guess here's what it comes down to, we got to find more gentle, kindler ways to capture hearts and minds than being right. When we get in these, I find myself all the time arguing with some motherfucker online, but I'm like, I'm not going to change his mind by being right. That's a sad, fucked up fact that you could be right and not change someone's mind. Mm-hmm. But how do we get to that fundamental shit and impress upon them and educate them or enlighten them that we're just doing it all wrong and we're looking at it all wrong? It's odd. Like, facts don't help you persuade someone.
Yeah,
it's fucking very strange.
I feel like it's one of those things where we are so invested in the skirmishes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, by design. Like, it's like,
spoils to the victor.
Right. It's like
social currency. I own him. Fucking.
It's like the people who have, who pretty much reap the benefits of us being constantly at odds, like, are the wealthy, you know what I'm saying? And the powerful. They're like, yo, while you guys fight about all this little stupid shit, we're going to continue to be up here being ignored. You know what I'm saying? Like you can fight these petty battles. Like, do
you think that they're orchestrating that, or just reaping the benefits because that's human nature and they're exploiting
opportunism versus
human
orchestration,
nature, or a little of both, probably?
I feel like it's a little bit of both. I don't feel like there's
a lot of both.
I don't feel like there's this sophisticated network or cabal, mastermind shit. I feel like it's just it doesn't need to be. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's from its inception.
It's another part of human nature
to
exploit that fact. And
I was trying to interject earlier. I think there's one X factor in all of this shit, and it's something that doesn't really exist in human nature. It kind of sort of does when you just talk about fundamental shit like how we communicate, period, with each other. How we pass news, how we started to chronicle history is the news, the media. I was trying to interject a little bit earlier, but I didn't want to sidetrack us. But the media is this apparatus that it might not be a tool of the oligarchy to keep us divided, but it's its own corporate interest. It's its own business that benefits as well. So it's almost the media is the useful idiot of the Koch brothers, because the media is the one who's getting us into these skirmishes every fucking day. This 24-hour news cycle, all of this. We're never going to address capitalism and finding a sensible hybrid.
Think about that though. But think about that though. You said the media is owned. Who owns the media?
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's owned, it's controlled by these giant corporations. What I'm saying, there's a reason why.
But it's not like it's a cabal. I'm saying the corporation is its own organism to a degree, and these CEOs come and go, and people make money and people die and their families take it over.
Class, but it's class interest.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's class interest. So
there's usually a Sumner Redstone at the top.
I just wanted to make that point.
The whole time.
I wanted to make the point that it is a class issue. It's not about some cabal of Jewish bankers or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Necessarily.
It's class interest, and it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, like there's a reason why anytime there's a populist like movement like that, certain people of a certain class get very nervous, because again, there's a realization like, yo, there's way more of them than us.
You're talking about the McCluskeys with their rifles out on the lawn, or whatever the fuck their name is, that crusty old mustard shirt.
I'm just saying like there's very powerful wealthy people, right? Who literally sit at the levers of power. You know what I'm saying? And not only in this country but globally, right? And they are super invested in us not banding together, like us aligning. Like there's a reason why we don't. There's a reason they effectively destroyed all the unions. Like, you know what I'm saying?
China.
You know what I'm saying? Like they've done that.
Yeah.
That was orchestrated. That was purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
well,
it's
what's funny about that is that's another thing too, that is even people who don't benefit still are anti-union just on principle. Like a lot of people who, you know, aren't at the top and have all, you know, wealth and stuff. And my thinking of that is like, isn't that free enterprise? A group of people being able to band together to negotiate together? Like, isn't that the free?
They just don't like being forced
capitalism
to join the union. That's the problem. If you join the union, you can't have the job.
That's an important distinction, actually, I'd say. Yeah.
But look at all the propaganda. Like everybody's like been into like, if you've worked enough jobs, there's been a point where you've walked in and had to sit down and watch a video, and there's been some video that talks about, you know, that has some sort of like, oh, this is why you don't need to have a union at Target, because Target looks out for your best interest. Like there's a, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody's experienced that.
Philip
like
K. Dick shit.
Yeah. Like, so it's like that they're actively like union busting through legislation, through propaganda.
Yes.
Well, let me take this back to the media again real quick, because I wanted to harp on that for a second because of fake news and how the media, what I was getting at was, it was an entity that existed before it was hijacked by corporations. And a media is a vital institution as long as it's not compromised through corruption and shit. How do we re-implement a media that you could trust to be at least somewhat objective? It's also fucking partisan now. That's what keeps us fighting, is partisan media. If we had objective media, we could have discussions and make up our own minds, because all we're given is facts.
Well, that got, you know what happened though? When that got thrown out the window when it stopped being working class. Because you remember, journalists used to be working class. Like, you remember all those old videos, like old videos, old movies and films? Yeah. Like the journalists were these like working class guys. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then like what happened was
they're just celebrities.
Right. Like the movies like Network came out, and then the rich kids of these fucking, like, you know, people who own these fucking banks and corporations, they wanted to be journalists. And then now it's this thing. Now it's this like
broadcast news, the William Hurts too. These writing the copy and shit.
So now it's all these it's all these rich kids now. That's what it is now. So the media is a bunch of rich kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're not going to
Hollywood.
Right, they're not gonna fucking. Why would they say some shit that's be critical of their fucking corporations? Their dad or their uncle fucking owns or controls. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and you get some people who break through, and now again the internet comes into play, and we get a Michael Brooks or somebody who fucking rest in peace along
like
with Chadwick
what we're
Boseman.
doing right now.
But guys like Michael Brooks, like they were doing it independently. You know what I'm saying?
Right, that's what I'm saying. But
exactly.
You know?
It's so hard though, because there's so many independent sources that are trash as well. It's like really just hard for people to parse out. And if you don't agree with somebody philosophically or ideologically, how are you going to agree with their media source? You know, in this day and age.
And I feel like
there's so many details that it's easy for anyone with a certain position or narrative to find all the details they need to support it.
Right.
You know, on every side. It's just too much. It's like a tsunami of information. And you can just pick and choose.
I personally, like, I don't know, like, I can only speak for myself. I definitely understand, like, it's hard there's so much like content and just being thrown at from all sides, hitting people. Like there's like,
while you're trying to pay your bills, and then you got all this shit coming at you.
Right.
Yeah.
But and so not everybody, and like, not everybody has time to sift through all this shit and find the credible sources and shit. So I
much
get
less
that.
take action somehow.
Right.
And that's all a network should be, though, is a curator, like a trusted source that goes through and curates and compiles all these other aggregate sources,
But I'll also say it's a responsibility of the citizen to always take every piece of information they get with a grain of salt and to look for facts within you can kind of parse opinion and
you gotta
facts.
teach most people to be critical thinkers, and we're not doing that.
And if you see a meme or whatever, Google it and look up where does it come from? Like what's the source?
Confirmation bias, dude. They see it, they're just like ding, ding, ding. Yes, there's the ammo.
Yes, exactly. Here we go. I'm going to post this shit because
I was right. See, there's a meme.
I think that requires what that requires is. I think it requires like sort of.